Hi everyone, it's Sandra. Today I have some sweet spring shabby chic DIYs. Let's get crafting. I'm starting off with 4 of these wood cutout bunnies. I did cut them out on my laser machine, but I know the Dollar Tree carries these as well. They just happen to be all the same shape. If you're interested in getting these that are different shapes, I have a set of 8 in 2 different sizes up on my Etsy shop, so feel free to go take a look. I'm going to go through this little book that I have from Temu and I'm going to pick out some coordinating papers. I want to kind of stick with sort of a little bit of a blue design today. I'm going to use Mod Podge to apply the paper to the bunnies. I'm going to have this bunny facing to the right and the other 3 bunnies will be facing to the left. I'm going to use my fingers to just rub the paper into the Mod Podge, and then I'm going to sort of crease it around the outside edge of the bunny, just to make the Mod Podge stick really well to the edges. Once the Mod Podge has fully dried, I'll take my coarse grit emery board here and just go around the edges of the bunny and get all that excess paper off. If you are looking for this type of emery board, I have some in my Amazon store that I found. They're 80 grit sandpaper, and I believe there's a pack of 10, and they're really awesome to use for these small projects. To create a wood base for the bunnies, I didn't have any pieces of wood that were long enough. I didn't feel like going outside and getting any power tools. So I'm just using the Dollar Tree's tumbling tower blocks and I'm going to glue 9 of them together. And I'm going to do that twice and then I'll glue them together to form a strip. This step is optional. I'm taking some wood filler and I'm going to fill in all the little cracks and crevices just to make it look more like one piece. I'm going to do that on the top and then both of the sides. Once the wood filler had dried, I smoothed it down and now I'm going to be giving it a couple of coats of chalk paint. This is a color that I mixed together. It was a light mint green. I added some gray and a little bit of a darker green just to get this beautiful spring color. I love using this color for spring because it just is such a pretty green. And I hope at some point when I run out of this one, I'll be able to recreate it. I love the look of lamb's ear for spring, but I don't have any small pieces, so I'm going to take this large leaf and just cut out some smaller pieces. I'm going to lay out my bunnies in a way that I know how I want to put them onto the little plank. And this way it'll be really easy to just pick them up and set them how I want them to be. So as I mentioned earlier, 3 are going to be facing to the left, and then the last one will be facing to the right. And I just thought that would be kind of whimsical and fun to do it this way. Hot glue will work fine. I just had to hold them in place until the glue had a chance to set. I grabbed 4 of my Sola wood flowers, the smaller ones, and I'm going to hot glue each of them onto the bunny's tails. So they're going to have this fluffy little wood flower as their tail, and I thought that was just so fun. I'm going to add some of the lamb's ear leaves, some other little bits of greenery, and some little blue styrofoam balls. And I'm going to create some really fun bunny butts for these bunnies. I think this first project turned out absolutely adorable. I love the paper. I love the Sola flowers. I love everything about it. For this project, I'm going to start with the 6x6 chalkboard sign. I'm going to paint just about an inch around the edges with some parchment paper. It's a little bit of an off-white color, but it has more of a gray tinge to it rather than a creamy yellow. I'm taking this wood piece and I'm going to just use my box cutter to cut it into a rectangle shape that's going to fit right in the center of that piece of scrapbook paper. This wood isn't very thick. It's about as thick as some of the Dollar Tree signs. So I'm just going to be able to score it about 4 or 5 times and then snap the piece off. I'm going to give this piece a really good sanding with some 80 grit sandpaper. I'm going to round off the corners and I'm also just going to kind of bevel down the sides a little bit so it looks a little bit old and worn. I printed off this quote just on some regular printer paper, but I made the background a little bit of a yellowy beige color so it would blend in with my scrapbook paper better. This says Live Simply, Bloom Wildly, and it will be available on my website as a free printable. I'm scuffing up the edges with my scissor blade, and this is just going to rough up the paper. So when I do my next step, it's going to show up really well. I have a tiny bit of stain that's diluted with some water in this little cup. I'm going to dab off the excess and then just very gently go around the edges of the paper just to give it, again, an old and weathered look. I'll do the same thing for the piece of wood, making sure that I get a little bit of the brown color on the top of the board so you can see it really well. I cut out the paper smaller than the wood piece so you'd be able to see a little bit of the wood sticking out, and I'm going to use Mod Podge to put them together. Using the paintbrush that I used for the stain, I'm just dragging it ever so slightly across the paper to give it even more of a vintage rustic look. I'm going to round out all 4 corners of the scrapbook paper so they match the chalkboard sign. Then I'm going to rough up the edges just like I did with a small piece of paper. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of the stain just again to give it more of a vintage feel. Using Mod Podge again, I'm going to just add it to the chalkboard sign and then place my scrapbook paper down. Normally, I would just use a glue stick, but I have been to the Dollar Tree at least 3 times in the last couple of weeks, and I just keep forgetting to pick one up. Hot glue will do for the piece of wood, and I'm just going to place that right in the center of the scrapbook paper where you see more of just the beige. I think this pretty little lace pattern really lends itself to shabby chic. I like adding little bits of greenery to my signs just to make them have a little bit more of a 3D effect. So I grabbed this little piece of greenery. I added a little tiny blossom of white to the top, and it'll be hot glued to the side of the wood. Then, to give the outside of the sign a little bit more of a rustic look as well, I used the same stain and just gave it a little bit of a dry brush all the way around. I really like how this sign turned out. My local dollar store has these bunny signs every year. I had this one still from last year. I'm going to do something really pretty with it. I'm going to first start by painting the edges, the back, and the bottom stand with parchment chalk paint. I have about a quarter of a cup of water in this little cup, and I'm adding about 3 or 4 squirts of light blue paint. I'm going to stir that around, and that's going to be used to dye these solo wood flowers that you see off to the left here. These are the ones that are called skin flowers because they have a little bit of the bark still attached. I like to use bamboo skewers and I gently push them into the bottom of the flowers, but I like to get a bit of a point. So a lot of my bamboo skewers don't have the point left. So I take these little nippers from the Dollar Tree and just cut an angle into it. When using acrylic or any type of craft paint and water, it's always really important to mix it just before you're going to dye the flowers because sometimes the paint can settle to the bottom. Now, all I have to do is dip it in and then pull it out, tap off the excess water, and set them aside to dry. I love being able to take these flowers and dye them whatever color I need to match my project. I'm using some blues in this bunny project and they just turned out so pretty. They absorb the color really quickly and they don't take long to dry either. I want to use these for the project. So I thought I would give them a shot and see what they look like when I dunk them into the paint and water mixture. And sure enough, they are dyeing up a really pretty blue. And this is opening up a whole window of opportunity for me. So you might see me trying to do some experimenting with some other types of greenery and florals as well. So here's my bunny all ready for the Mod Podge, and I'm going to be using this beautiful background paper that I printed off just on regular printer paper. I got the design from a paper pack from Creative Fabrica. Now, you guys hear me talk about this website all the time, and to honestly, if you have not gone to check it out, you have to. They have so many beautiful designs, and you can buy just what you want. You don't have to buy the whole membership. You can just go and pick and choose whatever you want to buy and get them individually. It is well worth it. I have a link down in my description box, so it'll be super easy for you to just click on that and head on over there to see what you might want to choose for spring. So for this paper, I am going to apply it in sections. You can see that I only did the bottom couple of inches, just using my finger to press everything down and get out all of the wrinkles and bubbles. And then I'm just going to hold it back, add another couple of inches of Mod Podge, and then just keep repeating this and working my way to the top. For larger projects, I like to go over the paper with the brayer, or you can use a squeegee and just make sure that everything is adhered really well. I cut some of the excess paper off and now I'm going to start using this piece of sandpaper, but then I switch over to my emery board because that just gives me a little bit more control and I'll just sand off the excess. Now to decorate the bunny, the first thing I'm going to do is grab this carnation solo wood flower and stick it right where his tail is supposed to be. I thought it was the perfect shape and texture for a bunny tail. Then I'm going to add some more of the blue flowers, the Dusty Miller that I dyed, some regular greenery, and a couple more of the white solo wood flowers just to give him a little bit more of a decorative look. I love how this bunny turned out. I think the blue along with the ivory and the beige colors just look so soft and pretty. You'll have to let me know what you think. I'm speeding this up for you because, to be honest, I am so slow when it comes to working with these florals and making things look the way I want them to look. I'm constantly shifting and moving and removing things and adding things back. And it just takes a really long time till I get it exactly how I like it. Looking at him, I thought his top was a little bit bare, so I decided to add some twine. I'm going to take a long piece, put it to the back, cross it over, and bring it to the front, and then just tie it in a knot, leaving the tails really long. I loved how that looked. Then I'm going to add a little twine bow and then a little bit of greenery too. And he turned out so stinking cute. I really love him. And you'll have to let me know what you think of him because each project that I'm creating, I love better than the one I did before. So it's going to be really hard for me to pick a favorite this time. I have some scrap fabric left over, and this is a Paris themed fabric. I love the black and white of it, and I love the Eiffel Tower. So I have decided to create a fabric carrot out of this. And I've seen a lot of creators making these, so I'm going to put my little spin on it. I'm going to cut out the piece for the front, and then I'll cut another piece for the back. I flip the bottom piece around so the insides would be facing each other. And this way I'll get the right shape for the front and the back when I cut out my carrot shape. I'm going to start at the bottom and just create a point. I'm just going to rough it here. I don't need to do anything fancy with it. I'm just going to go up to the top, and I like to kind of make my carrots go a little bit rounder at the top. So you're going to see me in a minute just change that shape. Now I'm going to fold the carrot in half, and that's going to give me the same angle on the bottom as the first cut. And this is just a little trick that I've picked up along the way. I want a really rustic, raggedy edge for these, so I'm not going to glue them inside out. And I'm going in about a good eighth of an inch, almost a quarter of an inch, so you can really see a prominent fringe on it. I'm just using stuffing from an old pillow, but I know Walmart carries a lot of really inexpensive sleeping pillows that you can use as well. You can get some for like $3 or $4. So don't go get the batting, go get a pillow because you're going to spend so much more for the pillow stuffing if you go to the craft section and get it there. Remember when you're using hot glue around your edges, you don't want to push too hard. I'm just going to gently use a ruler and press it down into the bottom point of the carrot, but you don't want to push too hard because the glue might let loose. I decided I decided to use a bunch of Walmart's lavender as the top of the carrot instead of the traditional green. And I'm adding some hot glue on the bottom layer of the fabric so I can push my florals in and then press them down so they get glued right inside the carrot. Then I'll add some more hot glue on the top portion of the fabric and hold that in place too. I made a double loop bow with this cream and black ticking stripe ribbon that I get from Michael's, and I'm going to glue that right in the center underneath the lavender. Then I'm going to twine up a few beads and add those to the carrot as well. And the final piece is a tiny little mini tassel that I created with some of the same twine and just combed it out and made it look really fluffy and then added that to the bow. To get some of the threads loose on the side where I left that little bit of a hem, I just used my hand and rubbed up and down, and some of those threads started to show. For this carrot, I'm using a piece of drop cloth fabric that I cut out into a carrot shape. And now I'm going to use this one crockery stamp from IOD. You can use absolutely any stamp that you want. I just decided to use this one. Now, before we go any further, I want to tell you why I'm wearing these gloves because I know I'm going to get tons of questions. My hands right now are really bothering me with psoriasis from the cold, and my arthritis is really starting to flare up and it gets itchy. So my hands don't look very pretty right now. So I just thought I would just cover them up so you don't have to look at them. I'm going to take the stamp and continue on just making it go off the edge of the carrot. I thought that would just be a fun look to it. It would maybe look more like a patterned fabric instead of just having the one stamp right in the middle. I'm I'm going to glue it the same way that I did the other carrot, leaving a little bit of an edge out. I'm going to stuff it, and this time I'm going to use the traditional green that the carrots usually have. I have this little asparagus fern, it's called, and it's artificial greenery. I don't know where I got it from, but I've had it for a really long time. And I love to use it for carrots because it actually looks like carrot greens. I sure hope you enjoyed these spring shabby chic DIYs and got inspired to create some yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to do all the things. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. That all helps get me noticed more on YouTube. Thanks for watching.